Someone needs to go take the temperature of a judge in the 20th Judicial Circuit in Florida, because apparently the chief judge down there has warned people that if they are out and about with these various stay-home orders, that they will not be issued a citation and they may not be given a bond. They will have to remain in custody until their first appearance. So what that means, if you're out at, say, 4 p.m. in the afternoon, you get arrested for being outside, until you spend the night in jail, you're not going to be given a bond, all right? Now, normally, most cases are set by a judge. They go back and say your bond is set at $500 or $5,000 or $50,000. Only, in my experience, normally is it in murder cases or domestic violence cases that you have to see a judge before the bond is set. So apparently the judge wants to do that for people that are out violating these stay-home orders in Florida. Now, additionally, the judge is going to say that the normal bond schedule will not apply, and that they would expect to hear testimony put on by the prosecutor, perhaps from health officials, as to whether a bond is appropriate and these people may in fact be a true risk to the community and that therefore they should stay in custody. Okay? Are you kidding me? Judges, a lot of times they can do what they want, but they got to follow the law. This judge is looking for more trouble than he's asking for if he follows this particular policy. Okay? Stay home, go home, send the people home. It's not his job to tell the police how they're going to enforce these provisions. The last time I heard, the police kind of fall under the whole executive branch, not the judiciary. So we'll see how that works out for the judge. And we'll see who comes to the aid and rescue of the people that are in fact charged with that. That may very well be unconstitutional. Think you'll never be arrested wrongfully? Watch this. This is a video of Matt Mooney. He's 33 and he lives just down the street from my offices in Brighton, Colorado. And he was at the park on Sunday with his 6-year-old daughter and wife playing t-ball, exercising some social distancing. Well, guess what? A former city council person called the police and said that somebody was in the park because it was closed. Well, the police arrive, not one, not two, but 3 police officers arrive. They tell Mr. Mooney, first, the park is closed. He respectfully says, no, it's not. I'm familiar with what's going on here, and I know that the park is open. The police then demand for his identification. He says, no, I'm not going to give you my identification because I'm not committing a crime. I'm not a suspect. Guess what? Mr. Mooney is a former state patrol officer, so he knows a little bit about the law, just enough to say, I know when something's not right, and he stood up for it. Well, the Brighton Police Department were going to have none of that. So they said, if you don't produce your identification, guess what? We're going to handcuff you in front of your 6-year-old daughter. They did that. Then they put him in the police car where he sat for some 10 to 15 minutes when his wife and child are out there. And the daughter apparently is emotional that they're arresting her father at a park when he's done nothing wrong. Ultimately, he's released. Okay? This, ladies and gentlemen, is a classic example. When you give somebody authority, somebody is going to abuse it. Now, the Brighton Police Department has issued an apology, and they have stated that they are deeply sorry and that the officers engaged in what they refer to as a complete overreach. Yes, I would say violating someone's constitutional rights by arresting them when no crime has been committed. And let's face it, ladies and gentlemen, he was under arrest. He was not free to leave. In fact, he was handcuffed. He was placed in the back of the police car. You can only do that when you have probable cause. They realized they had no basis to arrest Mr. Mooney. He only did one thing wrong. He exercised his rights, ladies and gentlemen, and the people in authority don't like it when you exercise their rights. All right? Mr. Mooney got an apology. It wasn't that same day. No. Did those officers apologize? No. It had to come later from higher up. And guess what? Brighton Police Department, You should get your checkbook ready. Write a check to Mr. Mooney. I don't know. What is the appropriate dollar amount to be wrongfully arrested, accused in front of your family and your 6-year-old daughter that you've been accused of breaking a crime, to see the daughter see you hauled away and put in a police car for doing nothing wrong? What do you think that is worth? Let me know in the comments below. I think it's going to be a big, big check, and the Brighton Police Department got it wrong. And here's the problem. Police officers deal with a lot of crap. I get it. It's a dangerous job. You deal with the public. But a little bit of common sense here, ladies and gentlemen. Like, why couldn't they look it up and see that the park wasn't closed? They didn't do that. What's wrong with this little busybody out there reporting people that are in an open park exercising social distancing? And you have to remember, we've talked about this, and I know people are going to get upset with me, but there's a real problem with these executive orders. They're a policy. They're not a law. A law has to be passed, right? Through the state, goes through the legislature, both houses, signed by the governor. Executive order, it's a policy. It's a suggestion. This is the way we're going to do business. Same thing with city council. They have to pass an ordinance, pass it, vote on it. Executive orders really are not really worth the paper they're written on. It's simply guidance to the people out there. That's it. And these officers, first of all, are wrong. They need to be disciplined and not just, oh, we're sorry. You know what? And this is the problem. When people's constitutional rights are violated, who winds up paying? It's not the police officers. It's not the guys that screw up, that in the words of their superiors, overreach. It's the citizens of the jurisdiction that write this check because someone can't exercise some common sense, or God forbid, maybe call somebody up with a little bit of knowledge. Most police officers, when they go to their post academy, their post training to become police officers, get about a week, 40 hours worth of training as it relates to the law. Okay? Not that much. As an attorney that's practiced criminal law for 25 years, still has to look it up. It's changing all the time. And how do we expect these police officers who got their 40 hours of training to somehow be experts in the law? But guess what? When you start arresting people, you have to be. It's that simple. These cops got to pay. They got to get more than an apology because, frankly, it's kind of like the... if these cops can't figure this out, I'm not sure they can handle greater responsibility. They need to go away. What the hell is going on in Kentucky? All right. Yes, everybody knows there's the coronavirus going on. Everybody knows that it is super contagious. And unfortunately, I think the number's up to like 20,000 people have passed away. Obviously, our thoughts and prayers go out to all of those individuals. Now, a lot of states have issued stay-at-home orders, and we've talked about it, and I think people are starting to talk about it more and more as this matter goes on, and frankly, people start really going bankrupt and start losing things, all right? And just remember who talked about it first. Oh, yeah, this guy. Because what was he concerned about? He was concerned about the enforceability. He was concerned about what authority does the state have, all right? I get it. The executive branch, the governor, he has his Department of Health, and they go out and they inspect restaurants. And I would want them, and I would expect them, if they walked into a restaurant and there was filth everywhere and little mice running across the food, shut them down. That is a public health emergency, is it not? Yes, it is. I think you could obviously say that is. But it's specific. We're going to shut this restaurant down, these operators down, because they don't know how to run a clean and sanitary business. And we're going to shut you down till you fix it, or if you can't fix it, we're just going to take away your license and you can't run your restaurant. That's what those powers and authority were designed to do. But the governors across many of these states, not all of them, some governors have said, we don't need this. But most of them have said, I'm going to issue powers. I have these powers to issue orders, and these orders are going to be almost like an edict, because remember, it's not really passed through the legislature. It says people need to stay at home. And then, of course, you read it, and we've read through them before. Just about everybody is essential if you want to be, and it's somewhat arbitrary and capricious. So, for example, here in the state of Colorado, we have the city of Denver, the city and county of Denver. And our mayor said he's going to shut the city down. Everything's going to be closed. And they said, well, does that include liquor stores? Well, I think they're essential. What about marijuana stores? Well, I think they're essential too. But you got to shut down all your restaurants. And if you have retail and it's not essential, you have to shut that down. So there's appliance places that are saying, hey, no, we're essential because this remains in effect as essential personnel because we're helping with people to maintain their residence. And if you need a refrigerator, you need to be able to go and buy it. But the city says, no, you can't do that. You're not essential. So they shut them down. They shut down Bass Pro Sports Shop, even though guns have been told they're essential. But then you can go over to Home Depot, where it looked like any other day on a spring day when I was there Saturday morning to get non-essential items. And I could buy a refrigerator, I guess, but I could also buy some potting soil. I could even buy a lawnmower. Is that essential? I don't know. Seems to be a little arbitrary and capricious. And so when the mayor was told we're going to shut everybody down, the liquor stores, what did they do? The lobby for the marijuana groups and the liquor people said, you can't do that. You'll kill us. We'll be out of business. So he said, okay, fine, you can do that. And really what it amounts to is if you had all these people that are not going to be, liquored up and stoned through this process, they could grow rather uneasy. So let's keep them that way. So they said, that's right, you can do this. You can sell your liquor. You can sell your marijuana. You can sell your appliances in some stores. You can't. You can, if you're a financial, legal, or somehow related to what you consider to be important, even a media company can remain open. But if you're a hairdresser, you can't stay open. If you're a restaurant and you don't want to serve takeout, you can't stay open. But if you serve takeout, that's okay, even though you're still going to be interacting with people all day long. So my point is, either you shut it all down or you shut none of it down. You put the higher risk people and say, don't come outside, and everybody wears a mask for a while. So this is where things got crazy in Kentucky. The governor down there said that you can't go to church on Sunday. And if you do, we are going to be out there and issue basically summons, or we're going to take down your license plate number to see where you are, and then we're going to summon you, or we're going to quarantine you for 14 days. Oh my God. All right? Even if you are not a religious person, even if you don't go to church, or if you're a Easter and Christmas type of person that goes to church, all right? You should be offended by this. You should have the absolute hell scared out of you, all right? And so a church down there in Louisville, I think I pronounced that right, Louisville. See, we have a Louisville here in Colorado, but I think it's Louisville, like Louisville Slugger. Anyway, a church down there wanted to have DriveThru Church. And the mayor down there, let's get his name, because this mayor deserves a little shout out for being perhaps one of the dumber people in America. And I don't know who his city attorney was, but he may be one of the dumber city attorneys out there. Because, ladies and gentlemen, think about it. This is why, and it's got to be intellectually honest. You can't just say, oh my God, you're killing people. And if you're going to kill people, you're putting everybody at risk. Okay? The law is the removal of emotion from logical thought. Okay? If you just want to argue on emotion, ignore the law. You don't need it. Okay? That's what the law is. It removes the emotion from the battle so that people make logical, rational decisions, not just emotional ones. So a federal judge granted a temporary restraining order filed by a Louisville church against Mayor Greg Fisher. because he didn't want to allow drive-in service for Easter Sunday. What's interesting is that this judge's decision completely blasts the mayor's decision and his rationale to expand his authority and to ignore the United States Constitution. The court blasts the mayor's decision to prohibit drive-in church services as, quote, beyond all reason, end quote, and akin to what one might find only in a dystopian novel. The mayor said that in a global pandemic, he's simply trying to save lives. I get it. The old argument, if it would save just one life, wouldn't it be worth it? No, that's not what we do in America. We could all drive 25 miles an hour or less because that would save just one life. And I know a lot of people aren't going to like this, but this is true. I want dangerous freedom. I want my individual rights because that is the job of the government, to protect my individual rights and not to take them away. And if they can't protect my rights, at least maintain what I have, then they have a problem. So the court went on basically saying that this mayor should probably take a look at the Constitution, those first 10 amendments, the important stuff, right? Judge Walker's order called Fisher's decision stunning and beyond all reason and unconstitutional. He went on to state that an American mayor criminalized the communal celebration of Easter. And the court states that sentence is one that this court never expected to see outside the pages of a dystopian novel or perhaps the pages of The Onion, the satirical newspaper. The court went on to state, Louisville is violating the free exercise clause beyond all question. Here, Louisville has targeted religious worship by prohibiting drive-in church services while not prohibiting a multitude of other non-religious drive-ins and drive-thrus, including, for example, drive-thru liquor stores. Which is kind of what I've been saying, ladies and gentlemen. The state can't say it's okay for one person to do it, and it's not okay for the other person to do it, unless you have a very defined, specific, and limited time period that's going to take place. And to just arbitrarily make stuff up and depending on who your lobbyist is, decides who's going to stay open is wrong. Now, Mayor Fisher, a.k.a. one of the dumbest mayors in America, said that he just couldn't have hundreds of thousands of people down there driving through this church. That would be bad. You can't have it. It'd be dangerous. Pretty soon, dogs and cats would be friends. No, Mayor Fisher, you are not very smart. And whomever gave you that legal advice saying that that is okay should lose their law license because it's a horrible advice. And the scary thing is that's their job to make sure, yeah, I get it. Cities are always trying to expand their authority and power, okay? But you can't ban it. And we're talking about somebody's fundamental First Amendment right, particularly when they're complying with the CDC guidelines, hence the whole drive-through 6 feet away. Well, it even gets worse down there in Kentucky. The governor said that he was going to look at the license plates and quarantine these people. What kind of country are we living in where they're taking down license plates number, going to go to your house, take your temperature? And let's see, if you don't have a temperature, they're going to quarantine you? You can't do that. You have no evidence that they've done anything wrong. They've come in contact with anybody. And we already know if somebody challenges that order, it's probably going to be found to be in violation of the United States Constitution. And I get it. Everyone needs to do their part. But ladies and gentlemen, the Constitution does not get suspended because it's the convenient thing to do. That's how despots and people with power gain their authority. They say there is an emergency and they try to expand it. And they'll say, well, next time we'll just take a little bit of power. because we did it before and look, we gave most of it back. Yeah. Do not trust them, ladies and gentlemen. All right. I'm just your friendly local neighborhood criminal defense attorney who I'm sure will be having clients that have to challenge these types of matters. And those are the arguments that people are going to make. You don't get to suspend the Constitution just because you think it's going to be convenient. It's an emergency. Remember the last time we thought it was okay to do that? Yeah, we put Japanese Americans into internment camps. Well, it was an emergency, so it was okay. That's what a lot of people are saying back then. We all know it's wrong now, and people will be saying the same thing again because, frankly, I don't think it's going to be as bad as people are saying it is. So we're not trying to get political. We believe this is a legal question. Yes, nobody wants anyone to die earlier than they absolutely have to. We all know death is a certainty. But in the words of Marcus Aurelius, it's not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live. We truly believe that. Like I said, dangerous freedom is a good thing. And from one other quote I think is worth noting here as well, the only power any government has is the power to crack down on criminals. Well, when there aren't enough criminals, one makes them. One declares so many things to be a crime that it becomes impossible for men to live without breaking laws. Think about that for a while. Ayn Rand, a woman who grew up in Stalin Russia, where millions and millions of people disappeared. Everything was a crime. So everyone could always be a criminal and be taken away for any reason. Hey, I'm just a little criminal defense lawyer. I'm just telling you, it's just the way things are. Government likes their laws. They never get up every morning saying, how are we going to limit our power and authority? No, they get up, every one of them in the government gets up and says, how do we expand our power and authority? And frankly, it's only because of attorneys and little old criminal defense lawyers like moi who get up there and say, no, you can't do that. And hopefully we have a judge that's listening that has enough intellectual honesty and guts to agree with it, so it doesn't take years to go up to the appellate courts where they finally look at it, where there's completely no emotion of the battle. They're completely removed, and they're looking at it intellectually honestly, and they say, you're right. That little criminal defense lawyer down there was absolutely correct. A little constitutional law refresher. Now, I took a lot of heat stating that the mayor, this Mayor Fisher in Louisville, and I think I got that pronounced correctly this time, Louisville, that he was probably one of the dumbest mayors in America, and his legal counsel that he was receiving probably should be disbarred for giving the advice that he could shut down a drive-through ministry that was going to take place on Easter Sunday. Well, fortunately, a United States District Court judge did that before I got the opportunity to say that that was the dumbest thing that ever took place. And that United States District Court judge says not only was that the dumbest thing, he thought it was Orwellian, but he also said it was unconstitutional. And I took a lot of heat. A lot of people said, oh my God, Scott, if it would save just one life, wouldn't it be worth it? No. If you want to remain in your house and protect yourself and think you're protecting others, go do it. I'm all for it. No one's forcing anybody to go outside, all right? But what I'm saying is, and I think people are starting to realize, these orders make no sense that are issued by mayors, that are issued by governors. They are a governor. They are a mayor. They are not king. And as you may all recall from your history lessons in American history, people in the United States came here to form the United States because they fled the king, a tyrant who one day would say, what you're doing is now illegal and you can't do that. So we came up with this radical idea, and it was called a constitution. And we are a republic. We are a republican form of government, all right? What does that mean? It means we are not a democracy. The founding fathers specifically rejected a democracy because a democracy can impose its will upon the minority. That is mob rule. That's why they specifically said it is a representative type government. That's why we have, in our states, we have an electoral college, because we don't want the majority on each coast to say that this is what the policy is going to be for everyone else. That's why in the electoral college, you have to win so many delegates from each state to form a coalition, so to speak, of people all over the country, not just in the major cities. Those are the things that the founding fathers considered. They also considered the fact that you have to limit the government. And ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who don't know it, if you've never read the Constitution, I highly encourage you to do so. You can Google it. You can even get a pocket edition. As you can see, it's not that thick. It's very light reading. But these are the playbooks. These are the rules that everyone in the United States has to follow, as well as the states. The states can give you greater rights than what's under the federal Constitution, but they can't impose more restrictive rights than what's under the United States Constitution. And just like somebody says the CDC puts out guidelines and says, this is what we would like you to do, it's guidance. It's not a law. When an executive order comes out, it is a policy decision. It is not a law because, as you all remember from your civics lessons, a bill has to be introduced in the House and the Senate and passed, and then they reconcile it, and then it goes to the governor or the president for signature. An executive order is very limited power by the governor or even an executive order at the state level. It is that of a policy decision. And a lot of people got upset with me about me saying these orders are arbitrary and capricious. What is essential under this order, but why is this other profession not essential under the same order? It makes no sense. Is it because you had a better lobbyist? Is it because you owe favors to people in a particular industry? Why is it okay to have your food served pickup from a guy not wearing a mask who's been in contact with lots of other people not wearing a mask versus me going to a restaurant and exercising some social distancing between tables at a restaurant? And I know people are going to say, Scott, you're not a doctor. Not claiming to be. The United States Constitution doesn't allow the government to take away your rights. And so, if the government wants to take away your rights, it's got to be legal. If they're going to take away your property, they have to pay you for it. Case in point, in Michigan, the governor up there, and she appears to be a nice lady, Governor Gretchen Whitmer. She is now facing a lawsuit in her official capacity as the governor, challenging her orders, her edicts that she has come down with. They are alleging that she is violating their First and Fifth Amendment rights with the executive order on a ban that went too far, that actually banned travel between homes within the state. So if you were a resident of the state of Michigan and you wanted to travel to your lake house, you can't do that. But if you lived in, say, Colorado and you had a lake house, you could then travel to your lake house in Michigan. That's okay. Why is that? Well, governors can't restrict travel, ladies and gentlemen. The governor at least knew that, but she's going to restrict her own citizens, saying she can do basically whatever she wants. Other examples in the lawsuit include that basically the executive order makes little to no sense because it bars people from going to a store, but bars them from using their fishing boat. It's also noted that essential businesses where a lot of people gather can remain open, while a one-man tree trimming operation has to stay home because the government says so. As it relates to the tree trimming operation, the owner states that he believes that he can operate safely. Why? Because he's outside trimming trees, normally by himself, or with a small crew exercising social distancing. The governor has also banned visits of people in the same state. And one of the plaintiffs in the state complained that he, under the governor's executive order, can't visit his girlfriend's residence, nor his friends, nor family members. And the plaintiffs are seeking a temporary injunction, just like the church sought in Kentucky, stating that the governor of Michigan is violating one's fundamental rights under both the First, the Fifth, and 14th Amendment. And they are seeking financial compensation for a regulatory taking of the physical, locational, and tangible property, and then ultimately seeking a permanent injunction against the enforcement of the government's orders. Now, you may all think, oh, Scott, why are you getting all fired up about this? Well, because a lot of people think, and some of these governors and mayors are thinking, that there are criminal ramifications that can take place because of their orders if people don't follow them. You can't restrict the people's right to travel. You can't restrict an individual's right to worship. And other people say, oh, you can worship at home. I get that. But that's not the way people want to do it, okay? And speaking from a person who last time he went to church was surprised that he wasn't struck down by a lightning bolt when he crossed that little altar to go to a friend's wedding. In the big picture, it doesn't really bother me. But as somebody who likes to protect the Constitution, who doesn't want to give up anyone's constitutional rights unless they're doing it knowingly, voluntarily, and completely of their own free volition, that's one thing. But when the government says you can't do that and they're going to make it criminal, that's when I get concerned. And I know a lot of people are saying, Scott, just let it go. Just let these people do what they want. They're just doing it for the good of everybody. Well, as I've stated before, your constitutional rights are not suspended even in a pandemic. And these executive orders are exposing the little tyrants out there that they are. So when these governors or mayors think that their little edicts are the law, they actually are not. Because I will trump your executive order with the United States Constitution. At the end of the day, when the panic subsides and rational thought takes over yet again, people will look at it and say, these are overreaching, excessive, and oh, by the way, they've just ruined the economy. Some people said that this discussion is political. No, it's not. It's legal. It's constitutional rights. And people are making people's fundamental rights under the United States Constitution illegal. And we will talk about it every day when every little tyrant out there thinks with the power of being a mayor or even the governor that they can do whatever the hell they want. And just like I've said before, no one in the government wakes up in the morning and says, how do we limit our power? Nobody does that. They know what their constitutional limits are, and every day people in the government get up and try to get around their limitations. Don't be afraid of somebody that wants to make lots of money. Be afraid of people that want power. No fun for you kids in California. Now, we talked about these stay-at-home orders and executive orders, all right? And we did a little refresher course that it's the legislature that passes laws and says what you can and can't do. And these executive orders are really policy statements as it relates to how agencies within the executive branch should handle things. So, for example, here in Colorado, the governor has said that he will not enforce provisions of the various liquor codes so that restaurants can sell liquor or deliver it, which would normally be completely prohibited. He's doing that to help the restaurants. He's not making a new law. He's basically saying, as a policy, we're not going to enforce that. I, as governor, am saying we're not going to enforce that. These executive orders are recommendations. Unless the legislature has specifically said this is a law, there's no enforcement as it relates on a criminal side. It's a civil action. So, for example, if here in Colorado, the Department of Regulatory Agencies has said that realtors cannot show homes. If somebody shows a home, the Department of Regulatory Agencies the Realtors Board could hold an administrative action against that realtor. They could fine them. They could take their license. Unlikely and unaware of any circumstance where they could be criminally charged. Same thing as it relates to chiropractors. You can go to the doctor, but you can't go to the chiropractor. Well, it's arbitrary. It just depends on who the governor likes best that particular day. And I don't know about in your neighborhood, but when I drive home every day, there is much more and more traffic every day because people are going to have to make a living. And if they aren't able to make a living, things are going to get primitive real fast, all right? I've never seen anything like this in my 50 years of life. This is crazy. I've lived through market dips but never seen a situation where a secondary and third wave of layoffs is coming, and I expect a huge rise in criminal conduct because people are going to do what they have to do to take care of their families. Jumping back to California. Apparently officials in California are so sick and tired of skaters violating stay-at-home orders, they have straight up dumped 37 tons of sand into a popular skate park so that they can stop this illegal skateboarding. That's right. Another gateway crime, ladies and gentlemen, just like driving with expired plates. First of all, you skateboard when there's a stay-at-home order, and the next thing you know, you could be robbing banks. Who knows where this madness will ever end? They have to put a stop to it. So even though the residents of California have been urged to self-isolate as much as possible since mid-March, the government has done everything they can to slow the spread of the coronavirus. Apparently, skate parks and the people that go there just don't get it. Now, take a look at this. This is from my neighborhood. See this? There's a skate park a couple blocks away. There's a skate park a few blocks away. And apparently, the mothers in the neighborhood are so upset that their children have been leaving the house with their parents and going to the skate park. And social shaming is not enough. So apparently, these individuals have complained so much that the city has decided to put trash dumpsters in the skate park so that people will not skate in the skate park. Now, here's another video. Look at this. A kid skating around the trash cans in the skate park. Why, you may ask, ladies and gentlemen? Because kids will be kids, and I have said this before. Stupid laws will be ignored. They always are. And finally, let's take a look at this video of this man out on the beach all by himself taking a nice run. But wait, this police officer, apparently having nothing better to do, decides to go and approach him. Run, Forrest, run. And it looks like he got away. Thank God. All right? I get it. stay-at-home orders, it is what it is. Police, we're all going to die if we save one life. I get it. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a constitutional thing. And when you start saying something's illegal, it becomes required under the Constitution. So I know some people disagree with me. We should all just do this to save everybody. Okay? As long as your bills are being paid, it's all great. But what about the people that have to make a living? We live with choices every day. We'll see what happens.